Hi everyone, Big Pauly back for a brand new video, back for a rundown of the movies that I watched in October 2021. Quite a little list here, maybe not as long as the September list, but saw quite a few things in October, so let's run through them. I don't have physical copies for all of them, as a lot of the stuff I watched on streaming and at the cinema, so yeah, let's go through it. Okay, so these are in order of watching them through the month. So we start at the beginning of October and end at the end of October. So first one I watched, which is a classic in a lot of people's eyes, A Clockwork Orange, starring Malcolm McDowell. And now I didn't know what to think of this. I always remember my mum saying it was such a weird film. And I've never been a big fan of Stanley Kubrick. He's got a bit of an unusual filmmaking technique, which is never really settled with me, like, you know, as far as Spielberg's concerned. So A Clockwork Orange, it was an interesting story, but there was multiple rapes in it, violence. Not that I'm against violence in films. It's just about a group of young British men that decide to terrorise people, rape them, kill them, and just cause havoc. Yeah, really wasn't for me. There were some interesting scenes. The Malcolm McDowell eye-opening scene. But other than that, didn't leave a lasting impression. Probably will be a one-time watch for me. But that was The Clockwork Orange. I gave that 4 out of 10. Yeah, I thought maybe I would have given that higher, but it just wasn't my sort of thing. So there you go. Okay, so next up, we have a film called The Monster. Yes. Also known as I Don't Want to Be Born. Conceived by the devil, only she knows what her baby really is. This stars Joan Collins, guest stars Donald Pleasance and Ralph Bates, who used to be in the British series Dear John. And this is basically a woman that becomes pregnant, has a baby, and the baby it's kind of like The Omen, an infant version of The Omen, where the baby, you know, slaps the parent. And just, it's an evil baby. Yeah. Now this was sent to me as a freebie from Network, but I must admit the first hour of this I had a problem with, because it was completely out of sync for an hour. It didn't start getting in until like the last half an hour, so it was a bit of a distraction. You know, it was about 3 or 4 seconds out of sync. Picture quality was okay. It's really a one-time watch. If you're going to watch something like this about a baby that goes apeshit on its parents, then it's probably like Rosemary's Baby or The Omen. They're better films to watch. But that was The Monster anyway. I gave that 4 out of 10 as well. Okay, so next up we had one of the late night crap DVD reviews, and that is The Tomb. I won't say starring William Shatner, because to be perfectly honest, he was only in it for a short amount of time, even though he's featured heavily on the front there and at the back there. Very short. Yeah, he played the father of this guy here, and he was a bit of a twat. You know, he was always crapping on his son, saying he should, you know, do better with his life and that. So it was a bit of a downer on William Shatner's role. Jerry Ryan was in it, 7 of 9 from Star Trek. Do you know what? I've got to read the back because I can't bloody remember. It was so long ago. I know it was about some kind of crystal or something. You're trying to locate a mysterious relic that the family has sought for generations. So they go down in lots of caves and that, and there's like evil monsters down there. It wasn't a very good film, even though it's from the writer of Star Trek The Next Generation. I just give it 2.5 out of 10. Next up, a film that actually did surprise me. It's a film by Guillermo del Toro presents Jessica Chastain in Mama. Yes, I decided to watch Mama. This is about two little girls that go missing in the woods one day, and they're found later, you know, years later, and they've kind of like adapted to their surroundings, you know, not having humans around them, and they've kind of almost become cannibalistic and kind of monstrous. And when the girls are eventually rescued and they go to live with a couple, the youngest girl kind of like brings some kind of entity from a previous part of the story, kind of, you know, taking the place of their mother, and kind of like a ghostly evil spirit that's latched onto the girl. And it's an interesting story. It was really good. It looked good. The cinematography was good. It was scary in a few places, I must admit that. It definitely had that kind of like Pan's Labyrinth type of Guillermo del Toro feel to it, kind of the cinematography and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really had fun with that. I thought it was a really good film. I love the ending as well. I gave that 7.5 out of 10. That also starred Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. I can't remember what his name is. That's Mama. The next one I watched on, I think it was Netflix. Pretty sure it was Netflix. It was The Guilty, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. It's basically a 911 movie. You know, he's a 911 operator in this big building, and there's a kidnap situation that happens, and it's all about the day and how the day plays out, and maybe something's not quite right. And Jake Gyllenhaal played it on edge all the way through the film. You could tell that there was past problems and there was something in his private life that was making him snap at people, and he was very on edge throughout the film, which we find out at the end. But it was a good film. It was a pretty good tense film. So yeah, I was really surprised with that. I gave that one 6.5 out of 10. Next up, we have The Unholy, starring Negan from The Walking Dead. This started out okay. It's basically about this young girl that seems to possess powers to heal people. You know, is this a big miracle sort of thing? And Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan, is kind of like an investigator stroke photographer that goes to this little place in America and investigates, has this really happened? Does she really heal? And has she got the gift? All that kind of stuff. It was a bit slow in places, but it was an okay watch. I gave that 5.5 out of 10, so not brilliant. Next one is also a streaming movie, and that's Infinite, starring Mark Wahlberg. Okay, so Infinite, which I think it was Netflix, stars Mark Wahlberg, and it's kind of about people that remember their past lives before they were reborn. It's mainly to do with reincarnation. There was some good special effects in the film, some good action scenes. So I had fun with it. I had a lot of fun with it. I gave it 7 out of 10. Next up, we have a cinema release of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which I went to see with Lulu. Directed by Andy Serkis, with Woody Harrelson, as well as Tom Hardy. It was good. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't as gruesome and violent as maybe we'd liked it. So it's toned down a lot. It was mainly a Venom movie. You know, there wasn't a lot of Tom Hardy in the film, which would have displeased my mum. I know. And Woody Harrelson could have been a bit more evil, I think. But I still gave it 7.5 out of 10 because I had fun with it. It was a fun film. Next up, a cinema release, Halloween Kills, which is the middle film. And this is kind of a filler film, you know. I enjoyed Halloween 2018. I thought it was a really good film. And Halloween Kills was kind of the lull before the storm. You know, obviously the storm we're going to get in Halloween Ends next year. But this was just about a group of people in the town taking their revenge on Michael Myers. You know, they've had enough with all this killing. Michael Myers was on top form in this film, though. He was quite brutal, and some of the kills were just so brutal. Unfortunately, Jamie Lee Curtis really didn't have anything to do other than sit on her ass in a hospital bed, which was unfortunate. But hopefully she's going to be back to form for the next film. But it wasn't as good as 2018. I gave Halloween Kills 6 out of 10. The next film was a good film, The Forgotten Battle. Yeah, so the film follows the lives of a few people, including a glider pilot in World War II. We also get like a resistance leader, a female resistance leader like Michelle from Hello Hello. I shall say this in advance. And about a couple of soldiers on the front line as well. So it was quite a good battle. It was quite a good battle. It was a good film. And I'm telling you, the last 20 minutes of the film, it was on a par with the first half hour of Saving Private Ryan. It was relentless. Some great action. Great action. Yeah, it's called The Forgotten Battle. I gave it 7 out of 10. I thought it was a really good film. Next up, we have another cinema release, and that is June 2021 from Denis Villeneuve. It's the best you're going to get. Or Dennis. Yeah. Obviously it's the story of Spice and Arachnis and all of the usual stuff that we know about June. I found this version of June really good. The cinematography was fantastic. All of the actors were great. I mean, I do enjoy the 1980s version, the David Lynch version, but this was a whole new version. It had that epic motion picture feel. So I love June, and they've just greenlit the second part of the film, which I'm really happy with. But I gave June 9.5 out of 10. It's could be my film of the year. You never know. We've got a few more films to go. Next up is a film called Great White, which I picked up on DVD. This is about, I think it's husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend who own this plane, this tourist plane, and they fly this couple out to this island, but they find a body there, so they decide to come back to the mainland. And on the way back, they find a capsized boat, which you see at the beginning of the film. And unfortunately, the plane sinks and it gets attacked by sharks, and they get stranded on a raft. And the film ends up being on a raft. So it's not a bad film, actually. It's not a bad shark film. It's nowhere near, Jaws or The Shallows or that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's quite an entertaining film. I gave that one 5.5 out of 10. The next film is The Straight Story. Yes, this is a David Lynch film starring Richard Farnsworth. While making this film, he actually had terminal cancer and unfortunately died the following year after this film came out, which is actually kind of sad because I don't think he maybe saw, the final film. This is about an old guy who wants to catch up with his brother he hasn't talked to for a long time. He's either been involved in an accident or he's ill, so he was in hospital. And because he lives quite a way away from him, he decides to equip his tractor, hook a trailer up to it, and basically drive cross-country to where he needs to go, a couple of 100 miles, or maybe it's 1,000 miles, I can't remember. And we catch up with him along the way as he tries to repair the old tractor. And he meets various people along the way. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting film. It's a road trip movie on a tractor. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good, really heartwarming film. It also has Sissy Spacek, who plays his daughter that's kind of got a speech impediment, and she's kind of got maybe a brain problem. So she lives with him. And it's a really good film. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 8 out of 10. Next film is actually in the Poundland bin, so I can't actually reach it at the moment. It Comes at Night. It's a Poundland bin movie. Yeah, I didn't really like it, to be perfectly honest. It's just about this family that are living in this old wood hut, or this old house in the woods, and everything's sealed up. You know, they sellotape the windows up. When they go outside, they go out in gas masks and shit like that. And then another family kind of come to live with them, and they have to trust each other. And it's all to do with why are they living this way? What is it outside that's causing them to live this way? It was a bit of a bore fest. You didn't really see anything, you know. It was just tension. I gave it 3 out of 10. Next up, we have a Jason Statham movie, Wrath of Man. This was a good action heist film about bank robbery, about revenge. And it's from Guy Ritchie, but it's kind of taken and some of the stories moved around. So you get to see the final part of the film, and then you go back to see how the story began and who these people are. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, but I thought it was good. I thought it was a good action film. I did give that 7.5 out of 10. Next up, we have another one of the late night DVD movies. This was shit, but it was fun. It was entertaining fun. Granny of the Dead. Yes. As you can see, it's a piss take on Shaun of the Dead. And a bit of hot fuzz thrown in there. It literally was about grannies that have become zombies. I can't say anything else than that. The acting was shit. Some of the special effects were naff. Some of it were okay. Next up was a really good film that was, I think, a Netflix exclusive that actually came out on a Criterion edition. Beasts of No Nation, with Idris Elba. And this is about a group of soldiers, is it in Africa, somewhere in Africa or somewhere like that, or a fictitious African nation. A village is kind of slaughtered, and Idris Elba, who's kind of the leader of this rebel group, take all the kids and turn them into soldiers. It was a good film. It was a good film. Picture quality was really good. This is from the director of the new Bond film, No Time to Die. I'm going to give a go at trying to pronounce his name. Kari Joji Fukunaga. I think that's pretty good. Yes, I think I received a gold star for that. But yeah, it was quite a good film. I gave that 8 out of 10. Yeah, good film. Next up, we have a Studio Ghibli film, Grave of the Fireflies, which is a World War II film about a boy and a really young girl trying to survive, you know, in World War II after their village or their town has been bombed, trying to survive, trying to get as much food as they can, how to deal with injuries and loss of parents and that kind of thing. It was built up to be a real emotional fest, and that I should have a box of tissues. But I gave that 5 out of 10. I found that kind of just meh. And I didn't find it emotionally one bit. What can I say? Next up is a film called Till Death with Megan Fox. That was a good film. That was a good film. Megan Fox basically goes out to this wilderness, icy wilderness, a big hut, you know, a big house with her husband. And she wakes up the following morning and she's handcuffed to him. And she has to drag him around. And she gets some assassins turn up to kill them. It's all to do with what her husband got involved in previously, but it was a really good action film, and it's probably one of Megan Fox's best film roles for a while. I gave that 7 out of 10. Okay, and the last film I saw in the month is a film called The Night House, which was on streaming, starring Rebecca Hall. This is about a recent widow that kind of unravels dead husband's secrets and what he was involved in, and she swears that he's actually still there in the house and haunting her. And it was an interesting film. It wasn't a jumpy film. It's more of a secrets film, you know. What was he involved in, that kind of thing. I gave that one 6.5 out of 10. So anyway, that is my little rundown of the films I saw in October. If you've seen any of that lot, stick down in the comments on what you thought of them. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye!